Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. They're three wide again. Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across. They're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
But before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy. You know, these are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, you can look and a drift to go out.
Gregory now, I love it. 18.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chaz Draycott Media, and welcome to another round of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. It's mighty quiet at the moment, isn't it, here at Spa Francorchamps for round 8 of the season. This is going to be one of the most exciting races on the calendar. It always is here at Spa. It's an absolute delight. All the drivers currently sat in the pit lane at the moment having the drivers briefing. It is literally dead silent around the circuit. You could hear a pin drop, but it's great to be here to complete the first half of the season in Season 5 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. It's myself, Chaz Draycott, and Ed May in the commentary box once again. And Ed, we've had a fantastic first half of the season so far. Last time out at Lebanon was unreal. The racing all night was great, and a feel-good story with the first win for Ian Pfeiffer as well.
Yeah, on his home circuit, it really was a very special evening. It was a time as well where you saw big movements in the championship, weren't we, from certain drivers really trying to make their mark on this championship. Jake Cranston had an amazing evening, didn't he? So we're going to have to see how he can carry on from the remainder of the season after this, the halfway point of the season at this amazing historic venue, Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. It's one of the circuits that drivers always seem to circle and highlight on their calendar because it is a real driver's track, while also providing us for some excellent racing as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a great night for it. We look here at the championship points then. Taylor Adams comes here holding on to his championship lead, but a great night at Lebanon for Jake Cranstow means he is now only 3 points behind in the championship. Nils Core and his teammate Ayrton Williams are tied on 102 points, and then there's quite a sturdy gap back to the likes of Callum Brandt, Matt Slight, Simon Povey and Lewis Ward. Guy Edwards and Dan McCauley complete the top 10, but if you look behind Dan, only 1 point back, you have Kyle Ridley and Daniel Mills remarkably close still all the way up and down the order. In the team's championship, there's only 1 point in it between Satellite Racing Blue and Regenta Sim Racing, and then it's close between the following teams: RD Simsport, Apex Racing Academy and Spontex CDM Esports as well. Once again, just goes to show though, doesn't it, Ed, just how close the entire campaign has been so far, and all the drivers have been really enjoying themselves. They're looking forward to getting this circuit out of the way though sometimes, because it's a bit of a scary place to race, is Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, but already it's just so exciting, isn't it, to see how close both championships are. Just 3 points separating the top two in the Drivers' Championship and only 1 point separating the top two in the teams. Both actually Satellite Racing Blue teammates with exactly the same number of points. So they're each, well, pulling their weight as much as the other. Does mean, of course, that when it comes to championship fights, there's going to be no favoured driver in either scenario. So it's going to be
mighty spicy indeed.
Yeah.
Taylor Adams currently the man leading the championship. Some of you may notice a little visual difference to the broadcast this evening. A while ago I actually changed some settings in OBS to sharpen iRacing up a bit, balance the colours out and the contrast a little bit. I was actually talking to Ben Chalcraft about that earlier on today. We were talking about the visual aspects of iRacing, and he's shown me that he's got a new livery for this round, as he has every single round. This is the Triple Chocolate Saltaire Brewery livery, and obviously being in Belgium, it seemed very apt that he had the triple chocolate livery on the car. Doesn't do many favours for the spec map in these gloomy conditions, but that's one of the talking points here tonight, Ed, because we did expect it to be raining. It's very, very moist in the air, but no rain coming down on the circuit just yet.
No, not just yet. There's a little chance of it potentially happening later on in the evening, maybe towards the tail end of the race. Obviously, forecasts can change dynamically on iRacing, so we will keep an eye on it as the evening progresses. But you are right in saying that while it's a little bit overcast, it could be a potential of rain, but it's looking likely to be a dry one here at Spa, for the moment at least. You're seeing the drivers out in practice, getting accustomed to the circuit. They're going to have around about 3 or so minutes more of the time out on the circuit, just to get acquainted with one another and the track. You can see already a big rubbered line. The drivers have been hard at work coming up through Eau Rouge and Radion. Wonderful section of corners, isn't it? I think these cars can pretty much make it flat out up through there. Same, of course, long, very fast left-hander. Well, the breaking down in the bus stop chicane. Not sure who that was going off the road on the exit there, wasn't it? That was someone.
Ayrton Williams, I think, has been off the road, apparently, according to the event viewer anyway that we have on our timing software. It's a RD Simsport 1-2 at the moment, and a McLaren 1-2 as well. Guy Edwards and Callum Brandt currently fastest, which is very, very interesting to see. They've not had the easiest of seasons so far, have these boys, so it's good to see that they're getting the performances in as they are now here in these McLarens. It's been a bit of an on and off car. Sometimes it's been the car with the pace, but other times it's not always been the best car to look after its tyres. So it's good to see these guys at least putting it through its paces. Guy Edwards, no podiums so far this season. Callum Brandt has had a race victory and a third, but since then, in the last couple of race meetings, he's been just inside the top 10, not having the easiest time of it. Ayrton Williams has been a consistent front runner as well. He finds himself down in 14th position at the moment. Looks like the Aston Martin not as suited to this circuit as we've seen it before. But we've got a nice healthy grid once again here. Had 32 cars in the session at the moment. It's looking like a very packed field once more.
Yeah, it's always great to have a big full grid, and it's a sign of the health of the championship. We do tend to get very strong turnouts for every single round of this amazing championship. Following one of the two Myers here, Heinz.
One of the championship sponsors,
of
course.
One of the sponsors.
Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Bespoke Shelters. All wonderful, wonderful people. And we thank them very much for their support. I was lucky enough to spend Friday with my good friend Drew Fletcher. Drew was kind enough to invite Dan McCauley and I round to go and see him for the day. It was a lovely, lovely time. Drew's a fantastic character. We had a really, really good laugh, and we thank him for his hospitality. Unfortunately, he's not on the circuit tonight, is Drew. He's had a long few days at work, so he's mentioned that he's not going to be in the sim this evening. He's just going to be, I think, spectating, either that or he'll be having a gin and having a chill out. But still, we've got Stephen Codman going quite well at the moment. He's ahead of some of the big hitters. 11th place at the moment in the Mercedes, and to be fair, in these darker conditions, Ed, that livery looks really, really spicy, doesn't it? I quite like it anyway, but in these darker, gloomier conditions, it's a bit more contrasty and busy. It's dead good.
Very impressive indeed. The Williams racing driver. Ooh,
maybe not over there.
A little bit wide. Not maybe quite going through the gravel, adding a little bit of dust and dirt. It's a very pretty. Look at it, really kicking the tail out now. He's kicking its head in, which is what you love to see. Needs to be a bit more careful though during qualifying, because of course if you do run wide you do completely invalidate your lap, and around here if it happens early you've got 2 minutes just waiting for your next chance.
So we're going to wait now and see qualifying get underway. We will have, I'm sure, the two Regenta Sim Racing BMWs leading us away. Taylor Adams, I'm going to try and get a camera on as he leaves the pit lane. There he is. It's actually Chris Jennings that is the first car out, and he earns the honour of being the car that we're going to watch for a little bit. He comes out of the pit lane, makes his way down. You can see everybody else now filtering out. Great sound from this field. Lovely, lovely machines. What on God's earth is that BMW that the guys have brought out this evening? That's the number 16 car. Actually, that's Simon Price in his BMW. Now he's got the Lunchbox Legends liveries on these cars. What on earth has he got on that tonight? Can't quite figure it out. Whisper. It's a variation of Whisper, and I'm not sure if it's a Belgian one or whether it's because it says Whisper.
There we go.
Simon, that's brilliant. I get it now. I was going to say I'm sure that's the Belgian tricolor down the side, and I'm sure the Whisper logo is just red, But Simon's been putting in a lot of effort with his liveries so far this season, and so too of the Top of the Pops boys. Not quite sure what theirs is tonight either, actually. I forgot to check in Discord earlier because they do have a channel.
Right said Fred. I'm too sexy. BMW. It was thought we were going to see maybe a Oasis livery with the news of the reunion.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. Can't you tell I'm thrilled?
You're looking back in anger, Chaz, and you know you shouldn't. Nah, you're not in for it, are you?
Ed, I deserve better than that, mate. Hey, at least I tell you what, all the drug dealers are going to make an absolute killing.
Oh,
anyway,
they're going to be rolling
Jamie Pounder, he's pounding around. Well, you can't buy it by the pound, can you? He's currently circulating with his teammate from Pristan the Nomad, Tom Stanley, just behind him. I don't think it was Tom that was with us last time, was it? We had a car or two missing from Lebanon. I'm just going to check the points now. Yeah, Tom Stanley wasn't with us. We were missing Ryan Penny, Andy Marston, Rob Sutherland wasn't on the circuit, Drew Fletcher, part-timer, and then Daniel Parron-Smith and Mark Johnson. Don't see Daniel Parron-Smith on circuit again this evening, unfortunately. Seeing who else. I don't think we have a Sutherland on the circuit either tonight, which is a shame. Who else is missing? Don't see Ryan Penny either. So a couple of drivers missing a couple of rounds at this midway point. But Andy Marston, the boss man, is back again, I'm happy to say, in the 111 Porsche. And
Marston's got a good little spot here, to be fair. He's far away from all that chaos that we saw earlier. I think in amongst Pristan Nomad cars, there was a lot of cars all around them, and that can maybe help out in terms of the slipstream, but also just completely throw you off if, say, a driver makes a mistake ahead of you, throws you off line. If you catch them, maybe they're a bit slower into the corners, completely ruins your flow and slows you down a little bit more. Obviously, you get the benefit of the slipstream, but sometimes the costs can outweigh the benefits. We'll see, though. Jake Cranston, he's got a good little gap, actually, to the car ahead. Just trying to see, is that one of the...
Martin Kenyon, that is. That's his new livery for this. Martin Kenyon. Can't remember. He says... Oh, there was a project he was working on. He posted it earlier on.
Cranstone's made a mistake there. He's had to slow massively down. Potentially it was a issue with track limits. You can see all the drivers that have made mistakes with track limits all peeling out of the way, letting the faster cars past.
Yeah, it was Dennis Van Beelen nearly getting caught out there. I think Lee Berridge wanted to go past Jake Cranstone. Jake getting harder on the brakes. He's got his teammate just in front there, Ben Idris Abdullahi. And a very, very packed field actually at this point of the circuit. But there is a lot of cars lingering around the same part of the track. Oh, and the DXT guys have said that's Martin's new project actually, the the DXT livery. I did not know that, boys. I like it. Very, very spicy. We'll look at it. Where's he gone? Where's he gone on my timing screen? This is the only problem with it early in qualifying. It's all, the field is all mixed up. There he is. Whoa, sorry. Hope you didn't fall out your chair, everyone. Yes, there we go. We can see it now. It's actually the DXT livery. He's just behind Paul Goffin in the number 164 Porsche. Very, very interesting livery, that. It's quite Dazzle camo-esque, isn't it?
I really like it.
Yeah,
I love
there's a lot going on.
The blue and the pink, the magenta, it goes very nicely indeed with the black and the white.
Does it say the Smurfs on the side of it? I'm pretty sure they take the mick out of their pace in other championships because they're in like AM classes and they're all really fast, so they call themselves the Smurfs. But it's almost like a synthwave sort of livery, isn't it? With the lines and the colours. Really enjoy that. Good stuff. Good stuff. Apologies for my earlier comment, everybody. Please don't sue me. But still. Times are coming in, and it's Chris Jennings, the two silver cars leading the way, actually. Chris Jennings and Ben Chalcraft. Ben goes faster by about 0.6 of a second. Where's our championship leader? Oh, he's right behind Simon Povey. Great place to be. Simon gliding the Mercedes through. Simon let me down at the weekend. He was supposed to come to the British Touring Car Championship with me. Well, I didn't say he was going to go with me, but he was supposed to meet us there, and then he bottled it, much like he does in this championship. But he will be hoping not to do so tonight. Guy Edwards goes fastest. Sorry, I'm being savage.
To be fair, if there is any circuit that Simon's going to be on,
oh yeah, I forgot how good he is around here.
Superb around here. I have flashbacks. I keep saying every time we come here. I have like PTSD flashbacks from every time I've been around here and Simon's been here. Because
PTSP.
Yeah, post-traumatic Povey. It's just He's always on it. This time, though, he's trying to gear up maybe for a little bit of a lap here, but he's gotten involved in a bit of...
He was in front of Lewis Ward there.
Yeah, sort of battling for position. But he's so strong around here. He's really, really impressive. That time we've just seen is not representative of his pace whatsoever.
And Lewis is actually
and we
gone
will
fastest.
expect some very good things for him. Yeah, I think Lewis was properly pushing, whereas Simon was rather gearing up, which was why we had a bit of a crossover point. But I don't think it held up Lewis too much going through that final chicane. Right. Watching Nils call the man in second place, the reigning champion from season 4. Had some good strong points as well, didn't he, when a lot of his rivals were maybe falling over themselves. Not quite as strong, though, as the driver of the Porsche, who's yet to set a lap time. Jake Cranstone needs to make this one count, because the time in the session does vanish pretty quickly. They have 15 minutes, and we've only got 8 of them left to go.
Yeah, Jake's really the man in form at the moment. Currently on an outstanding run of 5 podiums on the bounce. He's alternated between first and second places in the last 4 races, and then he had a 3rd place at Watkins Glen earlier in the season. So he's definitely a guy in form at the moment. He's the only driver actually inside the top 10 in the championship that was on the podium at Lebanon. Well, in the second race, that is, anyway. So certainly the one to beat. But Jake has been racing in the real world as well. Actually, Gilles Gardner very rightly pointed out that Jake had been racing in the real world at Brands Hatch just yesterday, and now jumping in the sim in very different cars. I think it was an MGB Roadster that Jake was racing in at Brands Hatch yesterday, which is really, really cool. Lewis Ward's still fastest at the moment, but look at this gaggle of cars here, Ed. Everybody right together. Cranstone goes 3rd fastest. Burns goes up to 14th. Tom Stanley now heads into the top 10. The times are flying in thick and fast.
Yeah, they really are. Drivers as best they can. Look at Guy Edwards, not far off the top, is he, there with that lap time for RD Simsport. Currently just a few hundredths off of the time set by Lewis Ward. Thousandths off of the time set by Nils Core, who does not improve, but I think he's gearing up for a lap, because that last lap was pretty slow, about 10 seconds off the pace. This time, though, he's really going to be pushing, and this is going to be a representative time, hopefully, from Simon Povey. His first effort over the line is going to be good enough, potentially, for the front row, is it? Yes, but not good enough for top spot. Lewis Ward was 6 thousandths of a second ahead of Simon, but has now bumped up to 69 thousandths. Nice lap time and effort there by Lewis, in behind Simon as well. Able to get the slipstream. Of course, qualifying is not the be-all and end-all around a circuit such as Spa, is it, Chaz?
Absolutely not, no. You and I have done many a broadcast together around here, Ed, and seen that slipstream is king. Fuel saving can be king around here as well. And let's not forget, everybody, this is going to be the final round of the championship that includes our current fuel limit levels in these cars. The fuel limits that we have, which is 40% currently, will be reduced for the second half of the season. The second half of the season, though, gets underway with a sprint race round where the limits are up to 60%, so there will still be, obviously, no dramas there. We've got an entire race meeting before the reduced limit comes in, so we've got time before then. But the halfway point of the season is next week, where we've got a week off. There will be some testing done just to check the numbers. We've got Ian Pfeiffer on our screens now, though. We spoke to him after Lebanon, the first driver to sort of win a home race for a very long time, actually, Ed, and it was great to see him get that victory. A really feel-good story, because while we've had 3 satellite racing cars in the championship and Satellite Racing Blue are doing really well, Ian's a sort of lone wolf as Satellite Racing Teal, so he's been sort of trying to fly the flag on his own here in this Mercedes, and it's been great to see him be rewarded with that, with his consistency.
And I think that means that we've had all of the satellite racing drivers in this championship take a race victory this season, I think, with Nils Core.
No.
Has Nils Core not won?
He's not won a race, no. Nils has not won a race. The highest result he's had is second place in round 3 of the championship, and then at Lebanon he was on the podium in race 1. He's not won a race yet.
He's still in contention for the title without actually having won a race.
It's incredible.
Testament to his consistency. His race pace is certainly there as well.
Well, he scored currently no points in the last race at Lebanon as well. There you go. There's intent.
There we go. Yeah, if there ever was a statement, that has been underlined and written in bold, I think, by Nils Core. Again, not by the biggest of margins, 0.03 of a second to Lewis Ward. He's right at the end of a long train of cars, which is helping him out massively in the slipstream. Trying to think though as well, because we do have the 1 hour race here tonight, what drivers are going to do for the strategy. Of course, this is the first round before we do change the format, isn't it, in terms of the amount of fuel the drivers have on board, essentially making sure that, well, the intent from season 1 was really to have 2 pit stops by the fuel limit that we had. Over the time the cars have evolved, the fuel flow limits on iRacing have changed, the amount of fuel the cars use per lap, all of these different factors have sort of changed, as well as the drivers growing wise to it and doing a bit more race management. It's all sort of worked in a way that's slightly away from how the drivers maybe intended to race. So we're essentially going to tweak things here and there. I think we're going to have a few meetings of minds, aren't we, Chaz, over the sort of little break that we've got to work things out, tweak things, and bring it to the point where we have those double stops again coming through.
Yeah, hopefully so. We want to obviously get this absolutely spot on for the drivers as well, and mean that, you know, the one stop is possible, but maybe just on a bit of a unicorn circuit like we had in the past at the Hungaroring. We've not been there for a while now, but yeah, it's certainly an interesting thing to see. We obviously work with the drivers and teams very closely to make sure that as many of them as possible get what they want, and that the series grows progressively and obviously in a healthy way, that the drivers are still happy with it. I was just looking at some statistics here, Ed, and the top 2 in the championship, Taylor Adams and Jake Cranstone, currently together on the grid as well, 6th and 7th. They have not scored a pole position so far this season, but 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th in the championship have all been on pole once each. We've not had a single driver score more than 1 pole position so far, and currently we have Nils Kaur and Simon Povey inside the top 3. Callum Brandt is up there as well, he's had a pole position. Also, Guy Edwards has not scored a pole, I've just got my numbers mixed up there. But we have Nils Kaur potentially taking 2nd pole position of the season, the first driver to do so. But it's really exciting, this, because 3 of the drivers in the top 7 in the championship scored 0 points in race 2 at Lebanon. There's been a few of them calling for drop rounds. I've ignored them, and they will need to sort it out.
Yeah, I mean, they all have points to prove. We'll see, though, who will prove it best, as Lewis Wood improves on his time, but not on the position, staying in 2nd place for now. Nils Kaur really has been pushing hard to grow that advantage. He's now 1.5 tenths ahead of Lewis and 3 tenths ahead of Simon, so he's really making his mark on this qualifying session. With a minute to go, drivers are able to finish the laps that they are on. This is not the same sort of format, the heat racing format that we saw last week, where it saw the drivers at the end of qualifying basically being swiftly removed and dragged off the circuit. They are able to complete the laps they're on for these sort of more traditional, just single race formats. You can see, though, all of the drivers essentially on one half of the circuit.
Yeah, it's amazing actually, because with the change of shots that we just had a moment ago showing one driver than the next, it looked like the field was completely spread out and all over the place, but no, they're all in one sort of third and one sector, so it's remarkable how close they are all together. We were riding on board with Dan McCauley there for just a moment, and Dan mentioned to me earlier today that when he'd booted up the sim and got ready to go, it had completely deleted and destroyed all of his previous settings, so all of his wheel and pedal inputs and all the calculations for that, his monitor settings and everything as well, so might be a little bit off kilter tonight, might Dan. And there's a few drivers, I'm sure, that are not quite gelling with the circuit at the moment. We see here Lee Berridge really gelling with the apex of Blanchimont. Timer hit 0. Jake Cranstone's got a purple sector on this lap, but no other improvement sectors so far. This is crunch time for the session now. Out of the final corner, he's behind Paul Goffin, who's also got 2 green sectors, 3 green sectors for Paul Goffin. Where does that put him? He's 26th on the grid. Cranstone improves. He's 6th on the grid at best. Jamie Pounder improves in the Prestander Nomad car. Anyone else moving up? Dominic Brennan goes 5th fastest in the BMW. Callum Brandt goes ahead of Simon Povey up into 3rd place. Was that Ben Idris Abdullahi in the background improving? He does not improve on his time. Kim Such goes for the line. Ian Pfeiffer goes 13th fastest. Here is Kim Such. No improvement from him. Simon Price not improving. Taylor Adams has got a better sector in the middle here, Ed. No improvement in Sector 4, though.
Eyes on Lewis Ward. Is he going to be on for a lap or is he backing out of it there? We'll have a look into Rostov. I think he was backing out and actually letting his teammate through. So eyes then shift to his teammate, Dan McCauley. Very nice exit as well, using just enough of the exit without running wide and getting himself an invalidation. Ooh. Taylor Adams actually going second fast. This very impressive lap there from the Regenta Sim Racing driver. No improvement by the looks of things for Dan McCauley as Callum Brandt is just great line leg comp.
And that's it. And that is Nils Kaur taking his second pole position of the season. He's the first driver to take more than one pole position in Season 5. If that doesn't tell you how close this all is, I don't know what does. I think we mentioned it at the previous round, but after the first, I think there was possible of 12 different podium finishes after the first few meetings, and we'd had 10 in the first few races. It's just been a remarkable, remarkable season so far. There's no drivers other than Jake Cranstone. Let me have a look. Jake's got 5 podiums so far. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other drivers that have only been on the podium more than once. So it's just amazing the variation that we've got. And I think so far in terms of podium finishes, it's everybody in the top 8 in the championship. There's been 12 different podium finishes so far. And we've had 7 races. So what's that? 21 potentials. And there's been 12 different podium finishes. What a season we're having. It may be a little bit quiet and dead right now while we talk about this, but it's just been a complete different world to what we've had before, isn't it?
It is so impressive. So impressive. And it means that as well, going from one round to the next, we can never predict who's going to be sort of a driver on form, who's going to run away with it all. It's so tightly balanced. And as well, one thing that we have to praise for the tight balance is iRacing's balance of performance. We've said it time and time again this season, but the spread of cars we have throughout the field, how many different drivers we have opting for different cars than they have done on previous seasons, the fact that the top 4, each one of the top 4 is in a different manufacturer as well, is a real testament just to how well it's been done. We've got an Aston Martin, a BMW, a Mercedes, and a McLaren all in the top 4. That's really impressive.
Absolutely is. The session is just ticking over at the moment. It does take a little bit of time to finish here at Spa because it can be a very long lap if somebody overruns the session. It does take 2 or 3 minutes, but we've got a couple of cars sat in the pit lane, but not many of them at the moment. Typically, I just clicked on John Barnes and he's just sort of despawned from the pit lane as I did that. We've got Ben Chalcraft down there in the triple chocolate machine. We've also got Martin Kenyon in his McLaren. I believe Stephen Burns is somewhere in the pit lane. I think he's just in front of Ben Chalcraft actually at the very end, but not anymore as they disappear and we get ready for the starting grid here for round 8 of the championship to complete the halfway point, and it's still mighty competitive up and down the order. So let's have a look then how they'll line up for round 8. It's reigning champion Nils Kaur on pole position. He takes his second pole of the season with Taylor Adams, championship leader, alongside him. Lewis Ward and Callum Brandt doing battle once again from row 2 ahead of Simon Povey and Dominic Brennan. Guy Edwards and Jake Cranstone make up the 4th row of the grid. Ben Idris Abdullahi and Jamie Pounder complete the top 10. We then have Dan McCauley and Ayrton Williams. Ayrton a little bit further down than we've seen him before. He starts in 12th place here tonight. Ian Pfeiffer, latest race winner, starts in 13th ahead of Kyle Ridley, who, oh my goodness me, what on God's earth was that? That was the soundboard thing. So everybody, I'm going to clarify this now. So on Discord, that scared the... I was going to swear then because I thought the broadcast's already gone downhill. I'm so sorry. So you can set yourself a server entrance sound on Discord, everybody. I set that really loud pipe banging noise to really annoy my friends earlier today when I went on Discord. It's just disconnected me and reconnected me really quickly. And I swear to God, I think I need to check my pants. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Kyle Ridley, we were saying he benefited from the sprint racing in the past, and he did really well at Lebanon. John Barnes and Ben Chalcraft make up the 8th row of the grid, ahead of Tom Stanley and Dennis Van Beelen. Stephen Burns and Stephen Codman make it in all-Stephen row 10, with Rob Sharp in 21st, Chris Jennings in 22nd. Lee Berridge is 23rd, alongside his stablemate John Roberts, teammate in fact, and then we have Martin Kenyon and Paul Goffin. Toby Johns and Heinz Mayer line up on row 14, ahead of Kim Such and Toby Ward. Then we have Andrew Marston and Simon Price on the 16th row of the grid. Just as we get going, they will crawl their way past Blanchimont and round the final corners. I'm so sorry, everybody. I really am so embarrassed. But you can set a server noise, basically. When you've got access to the soundboard on Discord, you can set it to make a noise as soon as you come in, just so everybody sort of knows who it is. And yeah, like I say, I set mine to that today to annoy my friends. We don't normally hear it on Discord because I don't normally jump in and out. But I've gone all hot now and embarrassed. And I think Ed's gone deaf.
I had to stop. I had to mute my mic for a second there because I was giggling incessantly.
It used to be a goose honking. I'll actually.
Was a goose? It would have been less offensive if it was the little goose.
I mean, you'll hear the goose now. Anyone that's watched the ESR TCR Championship would have heard this noise when I previously jumped in to have an interview with the wonderful Joe Glass. But yeah, different things for different times. Anyway,
here we go. Moving on.
Back to serious
Professional
business.
faces back on.
Who's your money on?
Nils Core. He's going to be serious about this, Chaz. He's really going to be wanting to get his first race victory on the board, and he's already gone now out of the final corner. Here we go, Chaz. The midway point of the season has been kicked off here at Spa, and it is Nils Core getting away well ahead of Lewis Ward. But Lewis, with a good run actually through that first corner. Oh, was tipped around into a spin is Dominic Brennan. And who was that getting into the back of 55 of Guy Edwards?
Yeah. Kenyon's been absolutely smashed into there. I think one of the Porsches was it going through him there.
Rear suspension done as well. It looks like the right rear is a bit off balance.
That was a huge hit there. It just all checked up. It was Guy Edwards getting into the back of Dominic Brennan. I think there was just a bit of a pinch down the inside. Not sure if Dominic knew he was there. Lead change though as Lewis Ward goes past Nils Core. Simon Povey up there already with the pair of them. Simon's going to try and go around the outside here into Les Combes, and he's going to do it. Or has he gone deep? No, he's got it stopped. Nicely done. But we're going to see a lot of that tonight. We're going to see a lot of lead changes and a lot of position changes down here into the chicane. Rob Sharp was caught up in that incident as well. It's Guy Edwards, Martin Kenyon, Dominic Brennan is the one that's been spun around and dropped right to the back of the pack. But everybody else cracking on at the moment. This is Chris Jennings following fellow Mercedes driver Stephen Codman. Looked like Rob Sharp was on the back of somebody. He's right behind Lee Berridge. But we have Lewis Ward leading the way. Simon Povey started 5th on the grid. He's already up to 2nd. So had a big old change in the order there. Loads of drivers getting in good places. John Roberts up 5 spots from where he started. Let's have another look at this again though, Ed, because it was just a bit of a pinch point on the inside, I think, between Guy Edwards and between Dominic Brennan.
Yeah, it's a wide circuit, but everyone fights for that little bit of space up on the inside, and it was coming together, wasn't it, between Dominic Brennan,
Van Beelen,
Guy Edwards, and then
Kenyon stopped because he sees the incident, he slams on. Toby Johns just doesn't have time to react, unfortunately. No. I don't think there was anything Toby really could have done there, to be honest with you. Let's have a look from his point of view. He's already trying to fight Martin here down towards turn 1. Martin will go later on the brakes, I think. Yeah, he drags it out a little bit, gets to the apex. Toby gets there. Suddenly, you can't really even see the McLaren's brake lights come on that deep, to be honest, or that brightly, I should say. They don't change that much when they come on, do they? So,
no.
Poor Toby didn't really have anywhere to go.
Unfortunately not. Simon goes a little bit hot into the first part of the bus stop. That could leave him vulnerable on the exit. Powers off nicely, though, in the Mercedes. It does have a lot of good grunt out of the corners. In fact, around Spa, it should be pretty impressive because of all of that power down the straight line. We did see it earlier that Nils Core didn't have a lot to fight with those two Mercs barreling down behind him. Of course, though, it could be a part of the plan in terms of managing the race, saving a bit of fuel.
So many cars
in a great position to do exactly that, as it's a long train, isn't it, all the way through the field from the lead to about, what is it, Stephen Burns, I think.
Yeah.
You see it go down to.
Actually, Stephen Codman. 17th place. All absolutely together. There's nearly 8 seconds separating all of them. But it's Lewis Ward that leads the race as Nils Core. Ooh, has a blink in and out there. He had a bit of a connection issue coming into Les Combes. We've seen it a few times from Nils. Nothing much has changed, really. It's just always something that has been there or thereabouts for Nils. As down the inside, Jake Cranstone has a look on Callum Brandt. Callum comes over to cover it and says no thank you. As Lee Berridge in the McLaren has had an issue. That's through Malmedy on the exit of Les Combes. I'm not quite sure what's happened to him, but we will find out, won't we?
We will. Let's have a look and see.
Oh,
dear me.
Good avoidance by Rob Sharp there, but he loses places as a result. But unfortunately, that was blue on blue, that was. John Roberts there, not knowing his teammate was down the inside or expecting him to back out. They'll be shouting at each other in Discord now. But Simon seems to be a bit of a cork in the bottle here. Second place, can't quite get back with Lewis Ward. He's got Nils Kaur behind him, championship leader Taylor Adams, then Callum Brandt, Jake Cranstone, Ben Idris Abdullahi in the thick of it as well. Dan McCauley, Jamie Pounder, Ayrton Williams completing the top 10. Very busy stuff. Will the fuel saving begin now? I think so.
Yeah, if it didn't begin from turn 1, lap 1, it'll certainly get started now. They are prioritising the last 5 minutes rather than the first 5, which is how these races often do go. Just watching now. Simon, is he going to be overtaken to bust up? No real threat from behind. Nils knowing that he won't benefit by chucking a little bit of a send. And we see the Mercedes, actually very impressive, isn't it, through the bus stop from Simon, able to reel in a little bit closer to Lewis Ward, and with a purple lap time. We said that he was struggling earlier, but the cork in the bottle doesn't seem to be the case if we look at the lap times.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Visually, in terms of the battle, it looks like it's completely the other way around, but definitely not at this point. There's the little orange Porsche in front, the Masters of Torque Porsche of Jake Cranstone. Highest Porsche in the field by a considerable margin as well. 6th place for him. Rob Sharp, after the earlier incident, down in 23rd, is the second Porsche in the order. Jake is definitely the one flying the flag at the moment. It's a little bit close further up in front. Taylor Adams only just in front of Callum Brandt. Jake wants that to change because he wants to try and catch him. Lewis Ward still leading ahead of Simon Povey. Nils Kaur behind. This is sketchy stuff from a driver's perspective sometimes, because some of them will get on the brakes, some of them will really coast it in. You've got to just sort of establish what the drivers around you are doing and whether it matches your own plan, really, don't you? It's difficult to gauge. I mean, Jake Cranstone is moving in and out of the braking, well, not in and out of the braking zone, sorry, in and out of the racing line to sort of show his nose to Callum Brandt here. Maybe just making his intentions clear that he wants to get through and he doesn't want to sit behind.
Yeah, it's going to be a case of just trying to figure out where's best for you to be. Do you want to be sort of more towards the back of the train? Do you want to maybe try and make up some positions while all of the other drivers are saving a bit of fuel and then manage a bit more in the second stop? It does sort of change from the driver's perspective to another. We do also know that Jake Cranstone loves a battle, doesn't he? He loves a little look up the inside. He's a driver that would, well, rather pack it all up than shy away from a battle.
Definitely. This man likes to make a good old move as well, does Nils Kaur, but he's a very wise racer. This is actually really cool to see because the top 3 at the moment are all of our previous champions of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Lewis Ward, 2-time champion in seasons 2 and 3. Simon Povey, the first ever champion, racing against our very own Ed May. And Nils Kaur, current reigning champion after winning the 4th season for Satellite Racing. It's great to see the 3 of them lead in the field, but yeah, look at the lifting and coasting there as they come onto the brakes. Nils was aware of it. He knows that Simon's doing it as well. Taylor Adams behind them, though, is a big threat at this stage. One of the benefits is that the BMW on this current level of the fuel limits is really the car to beat when it comes to fuel strategy. That may change in the second half of the season. We're excited to see how that goes, as there's a change in the background there. As I think Jake Cranstone's just sent it up the inside of Callum Brandt. He has. Makes the move at the corner, but then obviously the run down the hill, the wider line for Callum, seemingly favouring him. I think Ayrton Williams got a bit of a slowdown penalty there as well, Ed. He's just dropped behind his teammate.
Yeah, he has done. Obviously, it's so easy just to pick up a little bit of a slowdown just from running, I think, a little bit too sort of wide of the mark through that final corner.
You know we're missing tonight?
Who are we missing?
Matthias Tem.
Yes,
Tem,
that was it. Yeah.
Easily one of the most exciting drivers in the championship, is not here this evening, unfortunately.
Very sort of Cranstone-esque, isn't he, in terms of not wanting to shy away from battles whatsoever.
Definitely.
And it is a shame that we don't have him here tonight. Hopefully all is well and we'll see him after the mid-season break. For now, we have to focus on the drivers that are here and the battle that they're giving us so far, as Callum Brandt just dropping a little bit back from that lead fight for now.
Dead good camera, that.
Oh, that's really nice, isn't it? You can just see. Oh,
that was sarcasm, Ed. It went behind the trees.
Yeah, but it pops. See, my camera angle's a bit different. It's weird.
Oh, maybe I've messed with my chopper. I don't know. We need to look at this one anyway. Nils Kaur is sniffing the back of that Mercedes right now and trying to find a way through. Although, I think, to be honest, Simon knows that Nils isn't going to make a move just yet because he doesn't want to fight too hard, because otherwise they will lose Lewis Ward, and if Lewis gets out of the slipstream, he will be gone. Let's not forget Lewis's pace and how rapid this boy is. Not having the easiest of seasons so far. Second place at Long Beach earlier in the season when Simon ran out of fuel, and he's currently leading the way here. It's great to see it, but he's not been on the podium since round 2. Finds himself 8th in the championship. Season 2 and 3 champion, the most decorated driver in the history of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. And Matt Hoyland, I was going to say calling me out, but I can't even be mad with that. Lee Berridge has unfortunately jumped to the pit lane. He's had some sort of drama somewhere. Has he had a disconnect or something? I did see somebody drop down earlier on, and it is saying Lee Berridge is almost a lap down. He is running. But yeah, I think he's had some sort of drama somewhere.
A little bit of a drama, potentially. Looking at the way the race is going, it does seem that for a part of, I think, the first sector of the lap, Nils Core gets the edge over Simon. But then coming in towards that sort of final part, especially the bus stop, the Aston Martin just doesn't have the same sort of slow speed turning that the Mercedes has, which is where it sort of starts to shift back in the other direction for Simon in quite a major way.
Definitely does. He's actually a bit further away from Nils Core at this part of the lap now. There's actually sunshine in the air, which is nuts because this was touted as a wet race. There is a threat of rain, but it's very, very minimal at this present moment, so the driver's not thinking about what tyres they're going to be on. But look at all this lot. It's just a constant stream of cars through Le Combe. The field is just so close together all of the time. It's beautiful. Love to see it. Guy Edwards still recovering after his earlier off. Dennis Van Beelen was involved in that as well. He lost a couple of places in the Aston Martin. Seems like both cars are a little bit damaged at the moment as well, Ed. They'll be really, really excited for these first stops.
Yeah. The fact that we've had a bit of threat of rain that hasn't really materialised, the chance has actually increased. It's now, I think, just at the end of the race, a 25% chance, around about sort of 20 to 15 minutes before the end of the race. It's up to 19. So, as the
1 in 5
of rain does increase, I don't know if you're a gambler man, Chaz, but they're much better odds than they were before.
With how this broadcast's going so far, Ed, with the fact that I've mentioned narcotics, nearly sworn, scared everybody with a loud jump scare, and now been quoted for saying a euphemism that I forgot was a euphemism. I don't think I'm really going to be a betting man and put much money on anything, to be honest. I don't think I want to project or...
Your luck's going to turn for the better, Chaz. Here we go.
Do you work for William Hill or something?
Yeah.
Hopefully Lewis Ward's luck's going to turn for them. No, hopefully Lewis Ward's luck's going to get better, because these guys are starting to rein him in a little bit now as Jake Cranstone tries to make the move on Callum Brown. They remain side by side. They can battle like this because they're in the middle of it. The slipstream's keeping them together. So these guys can throw it about a little bit in the middle of this pack. No, Matthew Hoyland. It's just a case of Jake trying to outbrake him and get the run on the exit at the same time, because he'll do this. Look, he gets a tighter line. He leaves Callum, well, I was going to say room, but Callum's run wide, so never mind. That's ruined that. Ben Idris Abdullahi could benefit from this. Callum giving him a flash of the lights, maybe just to distract. They head down towards Eau Rouge, up over the crest of the hill at Radion. Trying to keep it pinned as much as they can through there. Scary part of the circuit indeed. Great to watch though. Callum Brandt now back on the offensive. Jake moves to the right hand side. Look at that, Taylor Adams moving out of the slipstream there, maybe to give slipstream to the guys behind. I'm not quite sure. Callum's got a bit of a run. He's on the outside for Le Combe. Jake leaves him enough room, stays to the inside. All is fair in love and war. And then behind them is Ben Idris Abdullahi, Dan McCauley, and then this man, Jamie Pounder in the Aston Martin. Staying or trying to stay with these guys. He's pushing the limits through there. But interesting race so far though, Ed. It's certainly one of a guessing game at this present moment, because this whole lot at the front of the field is separated by less than 3 seconds. It's incredible. The top 8 cars.
Yeah, this is one of those races where while we can see who's leading the race at the moment, it's going to be impossible to predict who'll be leading come the end. All of the drivers, like we saw actually at the Nürburgring just a couple of weeks ago, working together for the most part in this first stint, aren't they? Not really throwing any moves. Sometimes Jake is having a look here or there, but I think he started to calm it down just a touch after getting through on Callum Branton and can now maybe settle into maybe a bit more of a rhythm. We shall see as Taylor Adams is getting good, a little bit of a look maybe away from Jake Cranstoun and more towards Niels Kors. We have a little bit of side-by-side action here. John Barnes and Tom Stanley. Tom Stanley, the Prestanda Nomad Aston Martin. Just trying to break away, if anything, from the boosted McLaren in behind.
Yeah, John lost a lot of momentum through the double right-hander there, actually trying to go down the inside. He's now got the BMWs of Stephen Burns and Ben Chalcraft behind him, the cars that never stop changing livery. Stephen Burns looking to the outside line there. Not quite got it tucked in there. They've also got Stephen Codman just behind them, teammate of Mark Johnson. Don't think we have Mark on track tonight either, unfortunately. Another driver that we've not had for a few race meetings here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Chalcraft moving this way and that way, having a look at his fellow BMW driver, and still nothing doing there at this present moment. Lewis Ward seemingly in control at the moment, but it's going to be one of those unnerving moments knowing that the two guys behind him are two of the best drivers that the series has ever had, much like himself, you know, the cream of the crop, these top three. He's got potential upcoming champion Taylor Adams, the championship leader, Nils Kors, reigning champion, Simon Povey, the first ever champion, and then his own pedigree in this series to hold on to as well. It's got to be a bit unnerving knowing that these guys know the format that well by now, that they're formulating a plan behind him and all he can do is just keep it pinned and lead the race.
Yes, I just, again, I'm looking up and down the grid, Chaz, of the field. I'm just trying to think who's going to come out on top, and I do start to think now that Jake's started to calm down a bit, he could be a favourite for this. He set the fastest lap of the race last time by, and the way that we've been able to see him just have these little looks up the inside, the way he's really eager to start racing, and what we saw actually last time out at, I've forgotten, Leiden, sorry. We saw some great moves from him. I think he could be another shoe-in for another victory.
Potentially so. We'll have to wait and see what comes his way, because this entire pack is just so close together. Any one of them could surprise us, to be honest. We've got Dan McCauley and Lewis Ward bookending it, actually, as the Apex Racing Academy Mercedes. Another Mercedes in the background there, Ian Pfeiffer, currently inside the top 10. Ayrton Williams hasn't been able to make strides so far. He and Ben Chalcraft are, as well as Andy Marston, are the only three cars that currently reside where they started this race. I think Ayrton will be seeing that big group up in front of him on his relative in the bottom right of his screen, or wherever he has it anyway, and he'll be looking at the timing and just wishing that he was a part of that group, because I mean, he's a race winner this season in his debut season with us, and so far he's proven himself to be a fantastic racer, a lovely guy as well. He's against his countrymen actually right now, Kyle Ridley, two Australians together on circuit in 11th and 12th, once again highlighting how much of an international grid we do have. But Ayrton, all he can do at the moment by the look of it is follow the BMW, really.
Yeah, that's all he can do, really, at this moment in time. And Williams is trying to see that, of course, that lead train is breaking away, and well, it was obviously great earlier on in the season. Has got a victory already to his name. Might not be able to get one here tonight just because of that gap from Kyle Ridley to Ian Pfeiffer.
Simon Povey then tucked into the slipstream of Lewis Ward down towards Les Combes. Dominic Brennan has had a crash. Dominic Brennan, I think, has gone off at Eau Rouge and Radeon as Taylor Adams, actually defending from Jake Cranstoun, ends up forced down the inside of Nils Kors. That was really, really big check-up stuff there, and Callum Branton and Ben Idris Abdullahi are thrown into the mix here as well. We'll look back at what happened to Dom in just a minute. I think Jake wanted to look down the inside of Taylor there, Ed, and then he found himself having to go on the attack while being on the defensive. That was a really weird one.
It was just this bit of miscommunication, potentially, is not really what you're expecting from drivers at this stage, is it, when they're trying to work together and save a bit of fuel?
No, absolutely not. I think there are still certain drivers that maybe don't want to worry about saving so much fuel, and they're just going to go for moves whenever they can. And it's obviously upsetting the rhythm of some of the others a little bit. Let's see what happens to Don Brennan. Oh, actually nowhere near Eau Rouge and Radion. He's had contact, and more contact. Nothing really that Heinz Mayer could do there. He just suddenly found the BMW across his nose. There was contact on the inside. I think that was Toby Ward, and then suddenly, hello. Yeah. One hit too many there for Dominic Brennan, unfortunately, and he is out of the race.
Fortunately so. Now there we get more towards the battle at the front of the field, and Callum Brandt in his McLaren. Bit of pressure in behind from Ben Idris Abdullahi, but he's getting slipstream from Jake Cranston up ahead. It's going to hopefully allow him to carry on. A little bit of instability there, wasn't it, as he was coming down just through Orchard.
Yeah, there was a bit of a gap to Cranstone indeed, but I think that gradually over the lap it just sort of naturally closes back up again because of all the braking zones and everything around here that are quite heavy. The drivers do just concertina back into place, and it's still Lewis Ward, still Simon Povey, still Nils Gore, then Taylor Adams, Jake Cranstone, Callum Brandt, Ben Idris Abdullahi, Dan McCauley, Jamie Pounder now on the back of the Apex Racing Academy Mercedes. Ian Pfeiffer still a little bit further away. Ayrton Williams is now past Kyle Ridley. We didn't see that just earlier. I think he's done it down at the bottom. Oh, to do it down here will be quite interesting. Oh, is Kyle maybe? Slow down. I think he had a slow down there, so unfortunately for Kyle, he didn't really have much choice in the matter. But Ian Pfeiffer, he's in a bit of no man's land here, and to be honest, while you would have thought that's good because you don't have to compromise for other drivers, you don't have to get out of it all the time and avoid everybody, this isn't going to be helping him in terms of the fuel game right now, is it?
Yeah, it's going to be Ian Pfeiffer just losing a little bit of ground to Jamie Pounder. Really needs to nail this lap to get back into that long train, isn't it, of cars. Essentially originates with the lead of this race. Love the sound though, isn't it, of this Mercedes. It just sounds so vicious getting onto the power from low revs, the way it winds up as well.
Yeah, it's got one of the best transmission noises out of all the cars on the grid, hasn't it? Really, really sort of mid-range whine. It's not like too over the top like the good old M3 video that I'm sure we've all seen, yes. The M3 GTR from back in the day. But I think that it's just right. It's not completely blowing your ears off, but it's not subtle, so you don't miss it. You know, it's a constant and a good one in the Mercedes.
It always sounds supercharged with that sort of whine, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not. It doesn't sound as metallic as you'd expect. You know, it's a smooth whine in the Mercedes. I'm sure Lewis Ward will be enjoying that at the front of the field as well, knowing that there's another one of them behind him. Sometimes the way the Mercedes goes, you would think it was supercharged. But again, we have all 5 manufacturers in the top 6 of this race, which is another great sign of the balance of performance here on iRacing for the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. A hats off shout to our sponsors once again: Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Bespoke Shelters, and Jake Cranstone sending it down the inside for the purposes of entertainment. Lewis Ward is into the pits, and so too is Callum Brandt. That seems early.
Very early, but maybe a statement that he doesn't feel like saving fuel is going to be the way to go about this race in terms of being able to make it on the one stop, being such a long lap and a lap time where you are flat out for a majority. You're basically flat out from here all the way up through Eau Rouge and Radion, and then you can have a big lift and coast in towards Les Combes. But other than that, you do struggle to make it on one sort of stop around here. That is essentially Lewis Ward and Callum Brandt taking a leaf out of the old Simon Povey playbook of an early pit stop to try and get some clear air. You're going to see where that puts Lewis. A little bit of a gap. He's got Toby Ward just up ahead. Don't think there's any relation there between Lewis and Toby.
I can't believe I've never thought of that. There isn't, though. I'm very confident there isn't. But yeah, Toby and Lewis Ward together on the circuit. But it's currently Simon Povey that has inherited the race lead, with long-time rival Nils Gore right behind him. Taylor Adams and Jake Cranstone third and fourth. Ben Idris Abdullahi, again, another one of Ben's fantastic sort of under-the-radar performances. He may be in an absolute tower block of a car in the BMW, but he's doing a great job of just being there and just getting good points finishes. Now, you saw the windscreen wipers go on the car just a moment ago. That will have been just for a bit of dirt that the cars would have been kicking up. They do come on automatically when there's dirt and dust and all sorts of debris from the racing line kicked up at them. But there's no rain on the windscreens at this present moment, no rain falling at all. It does tend to turn on quite quickly, visually anyway, does the rain here on iRacing. You'll see it on the broadcast cameras when they sort of zoom out slightly. You would see the raindrops. Now, who's going to pit this time round then, Ed? Are we going to see people go an extra lap more? Because I don't think they're going to be able to really stretch it that much, but how early have the other guys gone? That's the other question.
I think we're going to maybe see a response soon from these drivers. Simon Povey could just decide now is the time to dive into the pits after seeing what guys ahead of him did.
Yeah.
And he is going to dive in. Niels Core follows him through. Taylor Adams continues on. We do know the BMW good on its fuel tank, but by the looks of things, he's the only driver that has decided to stay out. And look now, a majority of the field going to pits. In fact, actually, Taylor Adams is the only driver to extend his stint. Everybody else is coming into the pits.
Yeah, John Roberts from 18th
Simon's
position.
gone ahead of his box. He had to back up into it.
And he's taking tyres as well.
Tyres is not the big surprise because they are done at the same time as fuel. He's probably taking fronts and fueling it up to basically as high as it can go. We also see one of the McLarens coming behind him just to put a bit of fuel on board. I think that was Guy Edwards.
Lewis Ward is coming through now. I'm going to go on board with Lewis. Don't forget he was leading the race earlier on. And he's going to still lead the race, theoretically, because there is Niels Core. Simon Povey has lost out big time. Simon Povey, with that mistake, has dropped a number of positions. Callum Brandt goes flying through. Down the left-hand side of Ben Idris Abdullahi as well. He's going to try and get in front of the BMW before Eau Rouge, and he does so. Brilliant stuff from Callum Brandt. He's now right behind Niels Core. Jake Cranstone ahead of Simon Povey. Jamie Pounder still there in the background as well. Don't count Jamie out for a good result here. You know, he's going really great guns. Dennis Van Beelen and Tom Stanley are close together as they come up the hill. Dan McCauley's lost out a little bit in that scrap or that change in the pit lane. He's lost a second and a half to the cars ahead. Brandt is already having a go at Niels Core as well. Callum round the outside. Lovely move into Les Combes. It's definitely the preferred line round there, isn't it? If you can carry the pace, Ed. That's a fantastic move.
Really is a wonderful little move there, but like you said earlier, Simon Povey really losing out. That is not what he wanted to do, and it was all just from one little mistake, and it's something that we haven't seen too often from Simon Povey in seasons gone past, but something about just this season, maybe it's just that increased competition that's starting to show a little bit more stress and strain on a driver that has really had a stranglehold on this championship over the many years. Callum Brandt, though, in third place, but can't afford to battle too hard with Niels Core in behind, lest Lewis Ward break away, and then all of a sudden it becomes a battle for second place rather than battle for the lead. Taylor Adams, we expect to see him into the pits.
Yep.
Extending a stint, can afford to have a shorter either stint at the moment, a short stop at this moment in time, or come the end of the race that could see him leapfrog a few drivers.
Great to see that they're even saving time by going as short a route down the pit lane as possible. That's literally how close they have to cut it here. The BMW comes to a halt. Don't think he's missed his box or anything. No, all looks good. Lewis Ward continues to lead then down towards the bus stop chicane. He's got 1.6 seconds, give or take, over these guys as Jake Cranstow goes down the inside of Ben Idris Abdullahi's BMW. Jake is really the one throwing the moves, isn't he, at the moment? Really getting on with it. And look at that. That is all job done, I think, for Jake Cranstone. He sticks to the inside line a little bit still and then gets on to the brakes into La Source, and he's sorted it out. Taylor Adams heading out of the pit lane now in the BMW. Lewis Ward is through. Callum Brandt's going to get the jump on him here. I think he's got the run down the hill. Let's see if Callum can make it. Actually, no, he's not as close as he was to Idris Abdullahi earlier on. And yeah, Taylor Adams finds himself in second place. He was fourth on the road earlier on. Callum Brandt's got the run, though, here. The McLaren very quick. We know that. Taylor Adams, very sensible stuff, actually moves to the left-hand side. Now stays on the left. Actually, no, cuts back behind him. Callum's already in front before they get to the top of the Kemmel Straight. Jake Cranstoun looking down the inside of Nils Core. He's going to go for the move there. He's late on the brakes down the inside of the Aston Martin. That's not in the plan of attack for Nils Core, I can tell you that. There's a bit of contact this way and the other, and Jake Cranstoun goes through. Very, very tough stuff from Jake Cranstoun down the inside. Nils has a little bit of a wobble this way and that. We've seen a bit of netcode from Nils before, so he was a bit mindful of that. I think the two cars rattled off each other slightly, but great racing here at the front, Ed.
This is wonderful stuff. This is what we want to see, and this is what Lewis Ward will be loving in behind, because all of this battling is slowing each other down and eventually helping him out massively. Jake Cranstoun, though, we did say he's a driver that likes the battle and could be a favourite for the victory. Just the way he's approaching this race, not wanting to back out, not allowing drivers to take a chance, to relax, to give him a moment. He's constantly turning the screw little by little, and that's exactly how you can get the results here, is over these sustained races, piling on that pressure. Lewis Ward, he's got 1.5 seconds to Callum Brandt at this moment in time. Slipstream is something you can get roughly to around about 1.7 at a circuit like Spa, so just on the very fringes is Callum. Should be able to slowly but surely reel his way up to the rear end of that Mercedes. It was called. Look at the speed he can carry through there. That's the BMW, that's the Aston Martin's big strength, is the stability and speed that you can carry through sort of those high to medium speed corners. It's such a nice predictable platform. The only place where it does struggle is through the slower speeds, which is what we just saw coming through the bus stop. It just can't seem to contend and stick with the likes of the Porsche. Callum Brandt, fastest lap of the race so far, starting to close up to our race leader Lewis Ward. He's going to be really hoping, though, that this turn of pace from Callum does not last.
Yeah, absolutely. We know Lewis has got the pace when it matters. We've seen it many times from him before in this championship. 2 titles are not a coincidence for Lewis. Both of them scored in the McLaren, though, in the past. Not the Mercedes, but it's been a good long time since he won a championship back in seasons 2 and 3. Hope you're all enjoying the show so far. And yeah, as Matt Hoyland has pointed out, Dan, this is the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, as mentioned up there in the top left corner. And in the top right corner, you can see our championship sponsors: Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Bespoke Shelters. Thank you very much, guys, for the wonderful support, as ever, season on season. You can see a good battle here going through Les Combes. This is Dennis Van Beelen's Aston Martin, just in front of John Barnes in the McLaren. He's having to defend from Tom Stanley, who's done a lovely cutback there through Malmedy down towards Bruchet. He's going to get that stopped on the apex, I hope, anyway. You can see that John Barnes wants to cut back underneath him. Must give John Barnes a shout out as well, by the way, because when I'm lacking and not updating the points for everybody, John's on it already with his automated system that sorts it all out. So big shout out to John. Says he doesn't want to step on my toes, but he does a better job than me, so hats off to John. Ben Chalcraft just behind them there in the triple chocolate Solitaire machine, the Minardi SimSport BMW. Love seeing the difference in liveries from that car week on week. Some of these are a little bit more garish with the top of the pops guys, but they bring a great sense of camaraderie to the championship, and that's what it's all about here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. All of these guys have such a great time racing against each other. It's such a competitive environment as well, but it's such a positive place to be. These guys now heading back up the hill towards Blanchimont, and it's Lewis Ward now only 0.7 of a second clear here, Ed. Callum Brandt is really reining him in.
He's really going for it, Callum.
Mario's had his mushrooms.
He is absolutely on it now. Look at this, in towards the chicane at the end of the lap as well. It just seems to pitch in so nicely, the McLaren.
It does.
That sort of front end bite, the Simon Povey. This could be interesting because he comes in now anticipating maybe the end of the race, going to the end on this stop of fuel.
Yeah, that
could be an interesting call. That he's going to be cutting it close, but I think it could be enough.
Yeah, I think that as long as he doesn't underfuel it and he doesn't stop the race when the white flag flies like he did at Lebanon, I think he'll do all right. Now, Lewis Ward's had a bit of a poor run up through Radion, and Callum Brandt, look at that. He's got a great run on him, then combine it with the slipstream. Callum Brandt flies past on the right-hand side of Lewis Ward. And the McLaren takes the lead here for RD Simsport. Now, it was Callum and Guy that were first and second earlier on during practice.
It's great to see that Callum's able to apply that pace in the race scenario as well here. And he now takes the lead as they head out of Malmedy down the hill once more. Now, how long is he going to hold on to that? And is Lewis Ward going to play games behind him here and try and fuel save as a result?
Callum was really now going to try and get a shift on. He had great pace, didn't he, to catch Lewis Ward. I don't know if that is going to help him pull away just because of how strong that slipstream effect is here at Spa. But really is now hungry for the race victory. But by making that move, did slow down Lewis a bit, and that's brought now the cavalry, I think it's fair to say, along before the ride. Taylor Adams up there, as is Jake Cranstone, as is Niels Court, and Idris Abdullahi there as well. It has sort of become mainly I think it's fair to say, a 6-car fight to the lead. No disrespect for Jamie Pounder, but he is just outside of that slipstream range now. So unless he's able to really get a move on, even without the aid of slipstream, he may start to find himself just dropping back a little bit from this battle. Simon Povey, where does he find himself? At the moment, sees himself just in behind John Roberts, around about a second or so to the McLaren up ahead. Needs to be careful he doesn't get caught up in the traffic involving these cars that aren't quite on his pace. It's mainly the main downside of going for an early pit stop if you can't find that sort of clear track space.
Yeah, you can't always calculate it to perfection and fill the exact gap on the circuit that you'd want. Obviously everybody else has a lot of moving parts in their own race as well to consider, so it's very, very difficult to do that when it's just based on numbers as well. Mark Johnson says greetings from Italy. Good to see you, Mark. He's saying go Codders. His teammate Stephen Codman currently running in 19th position, just inside the points. We ride on board here with Ben Idris Abdullahi in the BMW, the Chicane Online Racing Machine, flying up through Arouge and Radion, through the right-hander, clipping the curb this way and that way. Sounds like the gunfire of an A10 Warthog. Up the Kemmel Straight. It's very uphill, the Kemmel Straight. I tend to forget. It feels like the car just doesn't accelerate, but it's just a really steep hill. He's saving a lot of fuel there, Ed.
Yeah, it really is. Just trying to make it work. We saw earlier, drivers saving some fuel. Time just... Again, waiting, I think, for those final 5 minutes, aren't they, Chaz? Just biding their time where it'll all start to erupt into life and action. Ben Chalcraft now on board with the driver of the BMW. This would most likely be this car's last outing in an iRacing GT4 league, as the new BMW is arriving on Thai Racing. I think this one is likely going to be pushed into sort of the legacy graveyard. I think it's fair to say. But
I don't want to look at the front of the new one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too upset about it. It does.
We've established this in the GT3s, haven't we? That you enjoy the M4, and
I quite like the M4, mainly just because I like how it drives.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. It's a hell of a race car. And that's Kyle Ridley around. Kyle Ridley going spinning to the left. Oh, and he's bounced it off the wall. Ian Pfeiffer was involved there, and Kyle getting back up to speed. Guy Edwards now arriving on the scene as well. That was Ian Pfeiffer involved there. Let's have a look. They were side by side together. Oh, Kyle's just run wide and they've stuck together. Great save that by Pfeiffer, and unfortunately for Kyle Ridley, the car just gets away and doesn't stop when it's going backwards. It's a nightmare to get these cars stopped, unfortunately. Simon Povey has just had a drama here. Simon Povey's had an issue. Oh, catches the grass, and around goes Povey. That's going to affect his strategy somewhat. Gets back onto the racing surface, stays off the racing line for a sec, just in case anyone else is going round. But that was a big moment, that could change the order at the very sharp end.
Oh. There we are. I think we're back to normal.
Hello?
Hello, I think we're back to normal here.
Nothing changed at my end, sorry.
Well, for me, I disconnected and then had the awful pipe sound again.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, you need to definitely turn the soundboard off.
I need to mute the soundboard there because that completely knocked me out again. My ears are ringing. Sorry about that, everyone.
No, I wouldn't have. I've turned it off, so.
Oh, you've turned it off.
Yeah.
I didn't. I thought we weren't going to have the issue again. I thought it was the internet was going to be stable and Discord was going to play ball. But you know, more fool me for thinking that Discord was going to be reasonable for once. It is a wonderful piece of software that allows you to hear our dulcet tones, but sometimes it's the most stable thing in terms of maintaining a connection. I think it's fair to say.
Oh, absolutely.
Caught now, chasing down. Jake Cranston needs to be nice and stable with how he approaches this battle. We know that Jake has been very aggressive in his moves and needs to just focus on these final 20 minutes. Just while also being mindful of the progress being made by Simon Povey, who is, I think, just trying to go under the radar of these drivers. Just become forgotten about, not really voice himself as a threat until that point, when all of those drivers that he was racing with and trying to chase down make a pit stop. And he's got some great clear space, doesn't he, to operate under now. Let's have a look at his... I think this next lap time is probably going to be the most representative, just because the other, I think, was marked down as an outlap.
Here's the
so
race.
You should see
where
what his sort of overall pace is going to be, mainly compared to the leaders, who are looking like they were battling for a moment, weren't they, Chaz, as we came to them live?
Yeah, indeed.
What was Callum Brandt's time over the line at 28.8 or 0.08, 28.06 for Lewis Ward.
Very, very close, of course. They are glued to each other at this point. Lewis just backing out of it when he needs to. Jamie Pounder and Dennis Van Beelen both coming into the pit lane, so more stops being done by these guys. Ben Chalcraft, I'm afraid, has just had an issue. He's down at the final corner. Is he going to hit the back of this? No, he's not going to hit the back of the McLaren. Thought he was going to bounce off it in the braking zone and gets back up to pace, but unfortunately loses a few positions as a result there. So it's Callum Brandt still ahead of Lewis Ward, then Taylor Adams, Jake Cranstone, Nils Kaur and Ben Idris Abdullahi. Dan McCauley and Ayrton Williams are about 10 seconds off this, but these two close together at the moment. 4 places gained each at present. No sign of any rain or anything at the moment though, Ed, which is what we almost planned for and expected. And nothing comes yet.
Nothing at the moment, yeah, nothing yet. So I'm going to have a little look at our weather radar, and I'm not seeing anything on the horizon. So it looks like it will be dry till the end, even despite all of that cloud cover you can see on board with Lewis Ward just up ahead of him. It does look like the rain is on the horizon, but just does not seem to want to fall over the circuit here, which is very uncharacteristic for Spa.
Yeah, indeed.
It does have its own sort of microclimate where it's the rain, really. That's the only thing about the microclimate, is that it's a very wet one.
It rains, yeah. It's like the Nürburgring, but you don't get as much sunshine. But we've got Lewis Ward all over the back of Callum Brandt, and hats off to Callum at this point for putting up with this much pressure and having him there without making a mistake, but also hats off to Lewis Ward for doing this so respectfully as well, being so close and not making contact. Nils Kaur is doing the same with Jake Cranstone right now. Dan McCauley and Taylor Adams. Simon Povey's been off. Lee Berridge has also been off. There's been a drama here. This is Lee Berridge going off the road. Oh, okay. Simon Povey has apparently been off though. What's this about? Down towards Bruchet. Whoa. What is that? Simon Povey, I think, had some form of hardware failure there. Watch the wheel.
Brakes just don't seem to work.
He's
shifting down.
Yeah. What on earth is that about? Dan McCauley has then had a problem as well. Whoa! Dan's had a big old off. Where on earth is that? Is that out of the exit of Puon?
Yeah, it looks like. Is it this?
Oh,
yes.
My God! He's going to feel that through a direct drive wheel. I can tell you that for free.
There's a horrible bump that if you run wide, it's basically just like a ramp.
Yeah, indeed.
Digs underneath the car, shoots him up, and then when the car comes crashing back down,
That's a high speed off as well, that is. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That is not what the doctor ordered.
For Corley, unfortunately.
He's come back in the pits and had it repaired, and he's now heading back out, actually. So he's at least cracking on to try and score some more points from this race. He knows he can probably salvage a result if he just keeps his head on. I've got this battle. Sorry.
I was going to say, it does mean that all of a sudden, two protagonists potentially for a race victory have just been snuffed out like that. Simon Povey's hardware issues. He just can't catch a break, seemingly taking him out of contention for the victory here tonight. And similar as well, isn't it? Getting taken out of contention by just a little mistake, running slightly too wide, hitting a very disguised bump. You couldn't see it from the angle that we saw. As soon as he hits that area, though, the car just jumps up, and massive damage with the contact in the barrier. Sees another driver taking out of contention. Means that it's probably just going to be this group of cars we're watching now, with Ben Idris Abdullahi just in behind Nils Kaur. This top 6 fighting it out for the race victory, with not a whole lot of time remaining, is it, Chaz? 15 minutes.
No, into the final quarter we're about to go here at Spa-Francorchamps for round 8 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. This is our lead battle. Callum Brandt in the RD Simsport McLaren, Lewis Ward in the Apex Racing Academy Mercedes. So far this season, Callum Brandt has had 1 race victory. He won round 3 of the championship, which was at Watkins Glen. And we have also had Lewis Ward having very much the opposite effect, where he's only had 1 podium finish so far, the double champion of this series. Not quite having the return that he would have wanted to, but I know that he's been enjoying how competitive this field is and the effort that has to go into being right at the sharp end of this championship. Certainly been exciting to see. Taylor Adams, I mean, he's just there or thereabouts all the time, isn't he, Taylor? He's so consistent. That's why he's championship leader. No podiums for him at Lebanon. He's had 2 race victories. The only time he's been on the podium so far this season has been race victories. He won at round 1 at Indianapolis. He then won at the Nürburgring. Since then, he's not been on the podium at all season. So he's just been there scoring enough points. He's 3 ahead of Jake Cranstone at the moment, and Jake is behind him on the circuit. So if anything, he's extending his championship lead here by 2 extra points.
I'm trying to think, is it only him and Jake Cranstone who have won more than 1 race so far this season? I'm just trying to cast my mind back if any other drivers have won more than 1 race.
Yeah, Jake Cranstone, Taylor Adams, 2
Those are the only 2 drivers that have won more than 1 race.
Indeed. Ooh.
Which is another testament just to show how competitive this championship has been. Look at Nils Kaur again, really using the Aston's strengths for his benefit.
Backing out of it again.
Saving a lot of fuel. Just the stability through these sort of medium speed corners as well. The ability to ride over the curbs, not really worried too much about what the car's going to do, just knowing it's nice and stable, really does give him the edge. You can see that Jake Cranstone, he's avoiding those curves because he knows that it's just not quite as stable, is it, compared to the Aston Martin. Really attack the curbs, and that's where it's at its strongest. But we'll see it in towards the bus stop. It feels very laboured coming into those slower speed corners. Just trying to get it to turn in is hard work.
Definitely. It is a very complex race of many moving parts, this one. It may look like these 6 drivers are all just glued to one another on the same bit of circuit with not a lot going on, but this is why, because they're coming into the pit lane. Callum Brandt, Lewis Ward next up. These 2, the race leaders recently, obviously using a bit more fuel than the rest of them. You can see there Simon Povey's car in the pit lane. As much as they're all good sports with each other, that'll be a bit of a welcome sight to those guys, knowing he's no longer a threat to just pop up out of nowhere once they've completed these stops. They will, of course, have people either in Discord or whatever sort of chat platform they may be on telling them what's going on in the race, people talking with them. We've got Jake Cranstone, Nils Kaur, Ben Idris Abdullahi, Taylor Adams now 1.1 seconds up the road. 12 minutes left to go with this race. Still time left to go. And look at Callum Brandt there. He has gone a long distance ahead of Lewis Ward, and also he's got a couple of cars between them as well. This has really played into Callum's hands.
Is going now Lewis Ward. After that early pit stop, he's going to try as all he can, but just having a look at Callum Brandt, the gap that he has is very impressive, isn't it?
Absolutely. He's really done a good job there in the pits and manages to save a bunch of time. Looking at the actual pit times that they had, Callum Brandt was stationary for 14.1 seconds, Lewis Ward 15.3, but he was a good 2 seconds quicker in the pits from entry to exit as well, so he's really optimised that as Callum. It looked to me like Lewis was a little bit slow stopping in his box as well. He had to sort of hesitate through two other cars to get there. He had Simon Povey's car in the way and then the stopping Callum Brandt as well. We've got this battle going on, which is Kim Such. He's gained 10 places to get into the top 20 and into a point-scoring place, but Dennis Van Beelen is saying no to that and wants to take 19th away from him. And then behind we've got John Roberts, Ben Chalcraft and Heinz Mayer as well, wanting a piece of the pie. But we need to go back up front because Jake Cranstone and Nils Kor, still glued to each other, are now trying to make the most of this stint of the race. Are they going to pit this time? It looks like Nils is really on the attack. He's just giving him a push at this point as they go up towards Blanchimont. Ben Idris Abdullahi's in a good spot though here as well, isn't he, Ed? Because he's right behind these guys. Chance to fuel save. No need to push like mad.
Yeah, no real requirements to do anything untoward. He can just stick with these drivers. He knows what the game plan is going to be for the race. Ooh. And he actually comes in behind Jacob Cranstone as the first to blink of this pack, following the moves made by Callum Brandt and Lewis Ward. And I think we will obviously shift our attention to Taylor Adams, who was able to go a little bit longer as well, wasn't he, on that first stop. Could help him out, of course, for the second one as well by having a short stop, and could maybe find him laping out ahead. Callum Brandt. Speaking of Callum Brandt, this is him we are on board with now, just up ahead of Lewis Ward. Gap to Lewis is roughly, is it 2.5 seconds, I think? Such is the margin of Callum Brandt as he's now just going to get the run. Should be ahead of Idris Abdullahi in towards, Arouge and Radion. But look at how close Ben Idris is. Look at how close as well Jake Cranstone been able to get ahead of Lewis Ward.
Yeah, Lewis now 1.9 seconds off these guys as well, so he's not even in the slipstream. He's going to be kicking himself for that. It's not really anything he could have done differently, to be honest with you. He's just trying to play the game at the right time. They've got Jamie Pounder in the background as well there. He's still waiting in the wings just in case anything goes wrong with these guys up front. Ben Idris Abdullahi and Jake Cranstone, though, certainly in a good position now to try and ambush Callum Brandt before the end of this race. And they now creep their way through there. Callum was slow on the apex there, really had to back out of that to get the McLaren to pitch in. Ben gives him a little bit of a tap. Like you said before, nothing too untoward really. I imagine Jake Cranstone won't want to wait around behind that BMW for too long while he tries to get past the RD Simsport McLaren. But it's a big old car to be following, is that Beamer. You can't really see a massive amount of the circuit past it. Some of the drivers at the Nürburgring were saying that when they were in the big train, weren't they?
Here we go, Chaz. I think this is the point where the race is going to start to ramp up, isn't it? We've been saying it all evening long. Jake Cranstone, he's been a driver that I know I tipped for potentially the race victory, and he's in a perfect position now. 2 cars up ahead between him and top spot. Potentially, of course, we will wait for Taylor Adams and Nils Kor to make their pit stop. Taylor Adams comes in, so does Nils Kor. So this pair will relinquish potentially the race lead unless they've been able to get ahead of Callum Brandt by saving a bit of fuel, having a shorter stop. We shall see. 7 minutes remain on this amazing race here, the 8th round of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Callum Brandt making his way out of the final corner. Nils Kor, Taylor Adams still stationary in their pit boxes. Now Taylor Adams has gotten rolling. Nils Kor still stationary. Finally gets up and running. Taylor Adams, he's been able to save the fuel.
Wow.
And there is daylight and then some
Wow.
back to the cars behind. Same with Niels Core. He's managed to leapfrog ahead of Callum Brandt, but what a performance there by Taylor Adams. Completely under the radar. Didn't worry about battling, didn't even consider it whenever there were cars around him. Had one of our most exciting drivers, Jake Cranston, breathing down his neck. We are on board with Jake now for so much of this race. Put him left, right and centre. Taylor didn't even think of it. He was laser focused on one thing, and that has seen him with now 4.5 seconds, nearly 5 seconds to second place driver Niels Core. And this is the reason why Taylor is looking very good for potentially the championship here this season, because of moments like that decisiveness from the word go to let everyone else run their own race and focus just on these final 5 minutes. Because we say it all the time, don't we, Chaz? It doesn't matter leading 50 minutes of an hour-long race. All that it matters is leading that last minute when you cross the line.
Absolutely. And I know there's going to be a lot of drivers in the chat that say I told you so about the BMW, but it's not all down to just that. Taylor Adams has become a bit of a master of this. We've seen him do it a couple of times before this season, and he did it at the Nürburgring, he did it at round 1 at Indianapolis. At the end of the day, he's using the strengths of the car that he has chosen. There will be a change for the rest of the season, so he's making hay while the sun doesn't quite shine here at Spa-Francorchamps. And he leads the way. The gap has come down by a few tenths, but I think Niels Core now, armed with the knowledge that he can make it to the end on fuel, he's just going to be gunning it on pure pace, and we know that he can wrangle that Aston Martin like the best of them. And Niels, reigning champion, it's not for no reason. He is one of the fastest guys we have ever had in the series. Consistently rapid, absolutely clinical. Ed said it himself a while ago. German precision engineering, driving German precision engineering when it came to him in the BMW M8. I'd say it's the same in the Aston Martin. As look at that, Ben Idris Abdullahi round the outside at the first part of the bus stop. What a move that is by Ben Idris Abdullahi to take third place from Callum Brandt. That was delightful. Great respect from Callum to leave the room, but fantastic clinical stuff from Ben as well. Now he defends the inside line. Callum could have the run on the exit though with the outside if he carries enough speed. Looks like he's just about got there. Ben had a little bit of a wobble one way then the other. Lewis Ward isn't completely out of this yet. Jake Cranstone's got the front row seat though as they head down towards Eau Rouge.
Here we go, side by side. Oh, this is scary stuff. And down with the brakes there from Abdullahi. Jake Cranstone, he's going to try and take both of them on the exit. Foot flat to the floor, punching a hole through the bottom of his Porsche as he barrels his way now around the outside of the both of them in towards Lakon. That was Cranstone personified in one fell swoop through now.
Oh, look at
into
Lewis.
Third place. Lewis Ward fancies a little bit of this as well. Lovely little opportunistic look up the inside, but has to settle for the time being. What a move though by Jake. He could see exactly what was happening a mile away.
That was brilliant stuff, and let's not forget this is 4 very different cars as well. The Porsche, the McLaren, the BMW and the Mercedes. It's just absolutely epic stuff. Let's watch that again, shall we? Ben Idris Abdullahi got past Callum Brandt down here. I wanted to have a look at this move again as well. Love this. Really close stuff. Just slithered his way through there. Great respect from Callum. Left lots of room for the manoeuvre to at least be on. And then Jake Cranstone did this on these guys. They went side by side for Eau Rouge. He flicks it to the left just enough to be inside track limits. And goodbye, he says. Brilliant, brilliant stuff that is. 3 wide down towards or up towards Lakon. And the battle continues as they get towards the later part of the lap, down towards Stavelot. And Lewis Ward is the one at the back of this with all the work to do, but it just looks like one long car in front of him, doesn't it? Oh no, he's run wide of the apex, so that's the problem with following. That's the problem with it, isn't it? It's nightmarish, especially behind something as big as the Beamer.
Oh, this is the moment, isn't it, where we see the drivers really start to battle away. I think we're on to the final lap now, Chaz, when we see Taylor Adams cross the line.
Yes.
Should be able to see the white flag being waved for him. Just needs to guide it home. Has 4 seconds to Niels Core in behind. Does not need to worry. You can see just on the left-hand side, finally not seemingly anywhere totally visible, is he? Just sort of by the side of the circuit.
Just dusting it off on the wall.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we need this soon, boys. Callum Brandt has got back past Ben Idris Abdullahi now as well with this scrap going on. Oh no, sorry. He was already in front of him, wasn't he? Apologies. It was after
working
the
great
move earlier.
though for Cranstone. Those two were battling. That might compromise Callum Brandt's run. Let's have a look. The gap was around about 0.8 of a second, wasn't it? And Jake should be able to be unchallenged in towards Les Combes. It's going to be a great run. Oh, is that maybe a slowdown? That was very tight, wasn't it? Over the inside curb at Radion. Doesn't seem to be slowing down or moving to the inside.
Or is he?
Just starting a little bit to...
Yeah.
Maybe he did have a slowdown. He's having to give up a lot of time here.
Yeah.
Very slow, isn't he, through Les Combes?
Oh, that's devastating. Callum's been an absolute star tonight, an absolute star at the front end of the order, but unfortunately just that little bit too much pressure, and he's just gone that tiny bit wide. But that's the sort of margins we deal with. Now, if Jake Cranstone can finish where he is here, he's on for his 6th podium finish in a row. He may not have any sort of chance of catching Taylor Adams in this race. Taylor will extend his championship lead somewhat in this. He'll be a good 5 points extra clear of Jake Cranstone if it finishes this way, because you get 25 points for first, 22 for second, and then 20 in third. But I think more it'll be the impressive nature of Jake's podium streak that he's kept on through the endurance races, through the sprint races as well. It's just been brilliant to see this guy come of form in the championship. He was impressive from the get-go, but he's now having to defend like mad from Ben Idris Abdullahi, who wants his first podium of the season. He's not scored more than 10 points in a single race as Ben Idris Abdullahi so far, so this will be his highest score by a long shot. 11th place, his best result before now, and he's really on this. Look at that, stretching his legs around the outside. He's going to be on the inside for Blanchimont, and he's already going to be ahead. I think Jake knows that he needs to get it done into the bus stop. They're still side by side through Blanchimont once more. Let's see how they get through there. They do. But Taylor Adams comes round the final corner, and he is going to take an emphatic victory. 3 wins this season for Taylor Adams. He wins round 8 of the championship. We need to look back at this, though, because Lewis Ward has made hay while the sun doesn't shine here. Cranstone's going to beat him to the line, but Ben Idris Abdullahi gets a podium. Nils Kaur finishes second up the road. But what a great race that was between those guys. And Toby, oh my goodness me, Nils. Who was that doing that?
That sounds like the soundboard's just come up again. Oh, flipping heck, it has. What on earth is this? Lee Verridge is,
Yeah,
we'll move away from that, but it did sound for a moment like the soundboard had returned for a brief moment. There is, look at this little tasty treat that we've got right at the end. Dennis Van Beelen looking for a move up the inside, but not quite able to get the better of Chris Jennings. That noise is horrendous still.
yeah, absolutely is.
We can't get away with it. Here we go, on board with Guy Edwards for a brief respite for everyone's eardrums.
Apologies,
Rob
everybody.
Sharp coming through for 19th and final point scoring position, I think, going to Paul Goffin, who just comes across the line in 20th place.
Hats off to the likes of Tom Stanley, by the way. Tom gained 9 places in that race to finish in 8th. 17th on the grid to 8th. Great drive from him. Stephen Codman going really well as well. He gained 7 places. Chris Jennings gained 8. Number of drivers gaining 6. John Roberts, Paul Goffin, Toby Johns, Kim Such, Toby Ward. All those guys gaining 6 places each. Ben Idris Abdullahi actually finishing on the podium. He gained 6 places before the end. But wow, another very entertaining race, and just great action all the way through, Ed. You know, the chase and the train of cars that we have, it may not be the most exciting thing in the world to watch, but it's the prospect of what that brings, isn't it, into this championship?
Yeah, it does bring a whole lot to it, and what a performance that was by the man who continues to lead and extends his lead in the championship. Taylor Adams getting yet another race victory, taking his tally to 3, I believe, for the season, making it a very important win as well as we go into a very short but still ever-present mid-season break for the drivers to think about and process how they're going to go for the rest of the season.
Definitely. Let's have a look then at the race results, shall we? Let's see just what that had in store for us, and who, of course, came out on top. Well, we all know, don't we? Of course we do. It was Taylor Adams taking the race victory, and very, very well done to him indeed. 3 wins this season. Nils Kaur, well, pole position and second, not a bad night at all for him. He got an extra championship point for pole as well, so he actually got 23 points out of that one. Ben Idris Abdullahi gets his first podium of the season, really well deserved as well. Great drive from him. Jake Cranstone finishes in 4th place with Lewis Ward completing the top 5. Jamie Pounder in 6th place. He and Tom Stanley had a great night for Prestanda Nomad. Hats off to those boys. Ian Pfeiffer, 8th place for him. Guy Edwards, 9th. Dan McCauley as well getting a 10th place spot there, completing those top 10 places. Kyle Ridley was 11th. Stephen Codman was 12th ahead of Chris Jennings and Dennis Van Beelen. He was only a 10th of a second ahead of John Barnes, as we saw at the end there. Callum Brandt was eventually classified in 16th position after all of that. So maybe not quite serving the slowdown as expected. That's really dropped him down. So that's really cost him there, unfortunately, at the end of the race. Ben Chalcraft was next up, ahead of John Roberts, 17th and 18th. Rob Sharp, 19th, and Paul Goffin, the last point scorer. Toby Johns was 21st. Ayrton Williams was a minute and 13 seconds down in 22nd. Kim Such, Toby Ward, Heinz Mayer, Martin Kenyon, Simon Price, Stephen Burns, and Lee Berridge completing the field. Dominic Brennan and Simon Povey and Dominic Brennan, DNFs for Spontex CDM Esports, and Andy Marston did not take the start of the race, it seems. Oh no, he did actually. He did 6 laps.
Yeah.
Sorry, 6 laps completed by Andy.
Having to think of what could have happened to Callum there, it may have been also a case of either not serving the slowdown penalty or that incident pushing him over the limit that we have for the race. Spa is a circuit that has gotten a reputation on iRacing over the many years. Has gotten slightly better, but it is quite punishing, isn't it, for track limits and getting those penalties racking up. So with the limit of being 20, he might have just, with a bit of Forex contact here and there, maybe just fallen slightly foul of that and gotten a penalty at the end of the race.
Absolutely. It's certainly a dog-eat-dog world in that way. We drag in Taylor Adams, race winner for the 3rd time this season. Taylor, you could say that the season's going well for you so far, mate. Talk us through that race.
Yeah, it was a interesting race. There was a lot of just cruising at the start. Well, not quite cruising, but just biding your time and making sure you didn't lose the group in front, because they were definitely quicker than me. But because I was just, sitting in their tow, I was able to save quite a bit of fuel. And then, I managed to do an extra lap than everyone else, which I was very surprised by. And then I pitted a lap early at the end because I didn't want to risk it on running out, and that meant I only had to put in a bit of fuel, which was lucky. Absolutely,
and obviously one of the talking points of the race was that the BMW and the advantage it seems to have on fuel sometimes can be waved goodbye to at this point. It's going to be a bit of a different second half of the season, though, isn't it? But it keeps things fresh, it keeps it exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if the BMW probably did have a slight advantage on fuel, but it was a real struggle off of the slow stuff. I think that was where BMW was really weak, or I was really bad. It might have been that. Off of La Source and off of the bus stop, I would lose like 3 or 4 tenths every time on the guys in front. So I guess it sort of plays out in different ways. I think if someone had broken the toe, I think they would have probably managed to make that difference up that it ended up being at the end. I don't know. It seemed like they were fighting behind a bit other than Nils. So that probably cost them a bit of time. But I think, if someone had managed to break the toe, I think that would have changed the outcome of the race. But I'm pleased. I'm happy.
Absolutely. I mean, you come to the halfway point of the season with a decent championship lead. It should be, I think, 7 points now from Jake Cranstone. So you must be feeling confident going into that, because especially after leading on last season when we had the winter tour, it was a bit of a turning point for you. But this time it seems that it's all coming up Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm missing 2 rounds because I'm on holiday, so I'm trying to get 50 points ahead of everyone, but it's not going to happen, obviously.
It's so tight, though, isn't it?
Oh, it's so good. It's so close. I'm really enjoying it, and quali was mental close, and then the race again. Every race this season seems to have been like that, just nothing in it at all. It's been really fun.
Well, that's the best thing to hear, Taylor. That's what we enjoy here at the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. And, of course, in 2 weeks' time, we'll head to Donington Park for what should be a belter of a pair of sprint races. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout-out to before you go, though, mate?
Big shout-out to you, Ed and Andy, for putting this on. As always, you all do a brilliant job, and it's really enjoyable.
Yes.
And then also, shout-out to Lewis, Simon and Dan McCauley for working together in quali. It worked a lot better than I was expecting it to. I thought we were all going to trip over each other, but it didn't happen. And then just a hello to my parents and my girlfriend who are watching. Hello.
Lovely stuff, Taylor. Great to speak to you, mate. Well done on a fantastic first half of the season, and we look forward to seeing you in the later stages when you're back, and enjoy your holiday if we don't speak to you before then.
Thank you very much. I will be at Donington, so thank you very much.
Smashing. See you then, mate.
Cheers.
Well, there we go. Gracious in victory as always, Taylor Adams, giving us a good insight to how that race went, but you can't argue that he's really been the guy to beat so far this season. It may only have been race wins when he's on the podium, no other podium finishes, but they're the important ones, aren't they?
They are. Those are the ones that get you the big points, and that's why he is where he is in the championship. It's been a great drive, though, isn't it? It's very sort of similar to the way he won his first race of the season as well, wasn't it, at Indianapolis, where we didn't really consider him too much for a race victory, and then right at the end, he reveals his hand and comes out on top.
Absolutely, and to be fair, this man did a good job of the fuel saving as well. We've seen him do it fantastically in the past, in the Winter Tour, and of course last season where he took his title. Nils Kaur joins us in the box. Nils, an interesting night for you guys tonight. It seemed like you always had somebody right on the bonnet of that Aston Martin until the end.
Yeah, that was quite exciting. First of all, hello guys, I didn't see you for a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
To be back here.
Well, that did look like a bit of a bonkers one. Obviously, fuel saving the aim of the game again, but there's such a close train of cars with you guys at the front. It's hard to know who wants to make the moves and who doesn't, isn't it?
Yeah, especially with all the fuel saving going on again, it was quite tricky. But to be honest, when I saw Taylor make the extra lap on the first one, I already knew that it's gonna be pretty tough to beat him. I would have had to stay ahead of him and maybe also pull a bit of a gap, but unfortunately after the first stop I did a bit of a slow stop and ended up behind a few cars and couldn't really get back past, and then was pretty much sealed from there. But I'm really happy that I at least managed to keep P2 this time.
Yeah, I was going to say more big points for the championship at the end of the day. It's been an interesting first half of the season though, hasn't it? It's really erupted into quite the championship this time in Season 5. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I mean, we already saw at the beginning of the season, before it even started, that the strength of field is going to be quite high, and it definitely is showing in the past 3 rounds.
Well, it's been very enjoyable from up here in the commentary box, Nils, and we hope you've been enjoying it from behind the wheel. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we head into the halfway season break?
Yeah, obviously want a big shout out to my team, Satellite Racing, our sponsors, Ayrton and Ian, my teammates. They're also doing a great job. And then also big congrats to Ben for getting his first podium.
Nicely said, Nils. Great to speak to you though, mate, and we look forward to seeing you again in the second half of the season. Fingers crossed.
Thank you guys. See ya.
And what we'll do, Ed, is we'll very quickly move on to the next interview with great haste, because I'm sure this driver will be very excited to speak to us after getting his first podium of the season. Ben Idris Abdullahi joins us in the box. Ben, first off, well done on your first podium. That looked like a riot, that one.
Thank you. Yeah, it was very exciting inside the car. I wasn't sure we were going to survive when we went up the radial 3 wide.
I was going to say that was, I imagine, quite the scary moment towards the end there, but I'm sure you're happy you survived that and had a good fight with the guys to the end.
Yeah, extremely happy. It was until the end, after the last pit stop, seeing all the cars, and then I was just laser focused on trying to keep up, trying to stay on the bumper and then make the moves and keep them.
Well, it certainly worked out for you, Ben. And I mean, how have you found the first half of the season so far here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge? Because it looks like it's been a very busy one.
Yeah, it's extremely close at every race, at every moment, and every time we do quali, 1/10 is equal a lot of positions. So it's always a lot of focus in qualifying to try and keep up with everyone.
And what are you looking forward to in the second half of the season? Are there any particular circuits that you enjoy that you're looking forward to?
No, I'm taking every race one after the other, and then try to do my best every time.
Well, we certainly enjoyed watching you so far, Ben. It's been great fun. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
Yeah, a big shout out at all the guys at COR. Always a lot of encouragement from them, so it's always nice. Nils Kaur as well, and thank you everyone for the race, for the broadcast, and everyone as well in the league for being so good to race with. always a lot of space, and it's very nice.
Well, it's been fantastic, Ben. Really, really well done. Great to have you in the league, mate, and well done on your podium. And we'll see you after the halfway season break. Have a good one.
Sure.
There we go. The very smoothly spoken Ben Idris Abdullahi. He needs to have a podcast or a radio show or something. Hell of a smooth voice then. Caught me off guard for a minute. But what a great thing to see at the end of the first half of the season, though, Ed. Getting his first podium. Like I said, I think looking at the results before now, his best result would have been an 11th place before now. And I can't believe that. Because he's been inside the top 10 so much. But
he's had some great battles, hasn't he? Up in the sort of sharp end.
Just 25 points so far this season. 8 points in round 3, 10 points in round 4, and then only 7 points total from Lebanon. I struggle to believe that, but third place in that race gets him 20 points. So he's almost doubled his tally in one race. It's just amazing.
Love his attitude as well in the comments box, just saying that he's not going to be focusing on any specific round. He's just going to take it one round at a time, and that's the attitude you need to have going into the second half of the season. I'm sure he's going to be a little bit upset that he can't carry this good momentum into a week from today. He's going to have a bit of a reset with that little gap, but still, it's a great attitude to have, and that's how you can really get some good points and hopefully turn his championship charge around, because it hasn't necessarily been indicative of his pace, the points that he's gotten so far.
Yeah, definitely. It was really, really exciting to watch, though, and obviously it keeps us on our toes here in the commentary box. Unfortunately, though, everybody, that's all we've got time for here tonight on Chaz Draycott Media with the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Hats off once again to our championship sponsors, Orris Digital, Crockery Direct, Derbyshire Holiday Homes and Bespoke Shelters. Thank you very much for the support. Thanks to Andy Marston at Sim Racing Magazine as well, and of course my co-commentator Ed May. All the drivers for putting this on and putting on such a great show for us, and all of you watching at home. We hope you've enjoyed the show once again tonight. But that's all for now, everybody. Enjoy the week off that we have with iRacing's Week 13 coming up, and we'll see you at Donington Park on the 10th of September for 2 sprint races in potential wet weather conditions. Until now, though, enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody, and good night. Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The 3 wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
But before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, you know, these are 5-ton machines, 1200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, you can look and it's ready to show off. Back there, go on board with Ben Gregory now. I love it. 10.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.